The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello? Hello? Is anyone out there? If you're hearing this, that means you stumbled across my transmission. I've become stranded, my time machine. It's stuck and all I can do is watch shows from wrestling's past. This is my chronicle, and if you're hearing this, that means this has somehow gotten through the time stream. Communications continue to be unreliable, but these ramblings are the only thing that's keeping me sane. My name is Paul Leeser, and all this is happening because I own the Wrestling Time Machine. Welcome, everyone, to the Wrestling Time Machine, Episode 3. It has been a long time since I've been here. You can blame me getting stuck in the time stream, you can blame whatever other excuse I invented in my intro, or you can blame the fact that I watch so much wrestling a week, it's hard to squeeze this in, and it only took me since September to get to the Round Robin Challenge, but better late than never. We're here, and in case you've forgotten, my name is Paul Leeser. I'm your host. And what we do on this show is we talk about old shows that you have voted on. So we follow a whole promotion for a calendar year. In this case, it's Ring of Honor 2002. I've covered the first show, obviously. The Era of Honor begins in the previous episode. So if you want to go back and listen to that, that would be wonderful. And would also give you a preface to what we're talking about here today, because the Round Robin Challenge directly feeds off stuff that happened in that show. So historically, there's not a whole lot different that's gone by in a month here. It's not like anything big has happened, so we can just dive right into the show. We're going to talk Round Robin Challenge. We're back in the Murphy Rec Center in Philadelphia, PA. The show opens. Christopher Daniels gets a promo talking about Ring of Honor isn't different than anywhere else he's ever been. He's the top star that everybody wants on their shows. Ring of Honor knows that. Everybody else knows that. And then he moves on to talking down about the Code of Honor. He's not shaking anybody's hands, as we've seen already in the previous show, and as we'll see much more of tonight, because the whole gimmick of tonight is the Round Robin Challenge. So himself, Loki, and Bryan Danielson are each going to have single matches against each other, and you know that Christopher Daniels wants to prove that he's the best, because, you know, you're the heel, you got to do that, right? So they follow that up with the usual techno intro package that we'll be having on these shows for a long time. So I hope you like techno. If you don't, then buying these DVDs or watching these shows or however you get your hands on them is going to be rough going for you. The Hit Squad head outside once again to hype up the crowd outside the arena like they did in the first show. And then they're so nice, Ring of Honor. They give us a handy graphic, which I have a picture of. It's like the most cut and dry thing you can ever think of. But in case you've forgotten what the Code of Honor is, Rule 1, competitors must shake hands before and after the match. Rule 2, no interfering in matches or having others interfere on your behalf. Rule 3, no harming the referees or causing others to harm an official. Rule 4, no sneak attacks. Rule 5, any violation in the ring will result in an automatic disqualification. So now that we got all that squared away, we kept a Quiet Storm, who wants to try a move out on Chris Devine. It's this weird submission hold that Bryan Danielson walks past and sees Devine trying to lock it in, and Danielson shows him how to do it and stretches the living bejesus out of Devine. It's pretty freaking funny. And that finally leads us to our first match, which is the first match in the Round Robin Challenge. Bryan Danielson taking on Christopher Daniels. Look, if you've watched these before, or if you have been living on a rock and never heard of these three guys, they're pretty gosh darn good at what they do. This one is good. It's not. We'll get better as the night goes on, and I think it was purposefully done that way to work up to the main event. But Danielson and Daniels have a lot of great ground exchanges here, so if you're into that sort of thing, this is definitely where you want to be. You also get a lot of stiff chops, a lot of big suplexes, and all that good stuff. And Danielson ends up injuring, quote unquote, his neck on a back suplex from Daniels, which plays into the finish because Daniels locks in this big crossface and just pulls the heck out of him to make Danielson tap, which is kind of a big deal. Even so far that Danielson goes to lock in the cattle mutilation earlier in the match, and he can't do it because to do that he has to stand on his neck and it's too hurt. So there's a lot of great story work going on here. And after the match, Daniels grabs the microphone, talks down about the Code of Honor once again, but he wants Bryan Danielson to shake his hand, seeing as he just made him tap out. Bryan, of course, has some class, so he follows through with the Code of Honor, and you're already seeing what the Code of Honor does, right? People in the crowd are booing Daniels like nobody's business. Of course, you have those people who love to cheer the heels, so you have them out there cheering for him. But, overall, everybody is behind Bryan Danielson. We cut backstage after that, where Prince Nana has the towel boy Eric Tuttle with him, shining his shoes, and Nana pretty much tells him that the only way to get ahead in life is to work for somebody above you, that being Prince Nana, of course. And then we cut to a promo with C.W. Anderson, where he talks about his upcoming tag team match against Kristen York and Joey Matthews. He originally wanted a handicap match, but because Ring of Honor doesn't do handicap matches, he's had to find a tag team partner, and he picks some random guy from the ring crew, and off we go with that, right? Which brings us to our next match, which is tag team match. Prince Nana teams up with the Towelboy Eric Tuttle to take on the Hit Squad. You already know where this is going, right, guys? The Hit Squad are murderers. They hit hard. They love the stiff stuff, and poor Tuttle just gets absolutely fed to the wolves here. They have Simply Luscious at ringside with him, who's another graduate of the Texas Wrestling Academy, and at one point or another was Steve Corino's girlfriend, if I'm remembering correctly. And Nana originally starts out talking about how Tuttle and Luscious know how to get by, and that's by serving their betters. He runs down the Code of Honor. The Hit Squad come out, just absolutely level both guys, and the squash ends. They even finish it off later by tossing Simply Luscious onto a pile of people because the Christopher Street Connection come down, Mace and Buffy. They got beat up by the Hit Squad on the first show, and looks like they're coming out for some revenge, but they run into Nana, who starts arguing with them. They seem to want to resuscitate the Towel Boy after he gets tossed to the floor. Of course, that creates the pile for them to throw Luscious on. It's your usual stuff you're going to get with the Christopher Street Connection here in Ring of Honor because they can't seem to help themselves with the gay jokes. They carry Tuttle to the back eventually and attempt mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but Nana saves him from his apparently oh-so-dangerous fate, and so they practice on each other because, it's what friends do, or whatever Buffy and Mace were to each other. So, the Boogie Nights then get a promo. They talk about their win, quote-unquote, seeing as they pretty much got annihilated and won by DQ at the Era of Honor Begins. Excuse me. And they decide that they're going to steal Homicide's chainsaw. They find the case. When they open it, they find the rubber chicken. The chainsaw revs up in the background, and they make a run for it. And they sort of admonish each other about how scared they are. Whatever. Joey Matthews and Christian York, who, if you're familiar with the timeline, were in ECW in their last couple of years as a team. Joey Matthews, of course, goes on to do big things. Eminem, other things like that. Christian York, he got a later run in TNA. That's really about all you can say about that. They say they're going to be in full effect tonight against C.W. Anderson and his partner of choice, who goes by the name of Elax. And we won't be seeing a lot of this guy. Fortunately, of course, he's very green in this. C.W. Anderson's been running with the Extreme Horsemen over at Major League Wrestling, which might also be a fun promotion to talk about down the line. Sort of a preface to a lot of feuds you're going to get here in Ring of Honor, like CM Punk and Raven, for example. York and Matthews, they don't do a lot. Soon after this, Matthews will get signed to WWE and go on to do everything that he's going to do there. Eminem, some of his singles work, break his nose, and of course be a road agent for him, which I believe I don't think he's doing that anymore. Anyways, that's not the point. Basically, this match is fine when C.W. Anderson and Joey Matthews are in there. I think they work smartly with Elax here. Clearly he's green. Clearly he doesn't have a lot of experience in the ring, so he gets his spots, and CW pretty much uses him to take breathers because when he's in there, he gets the piss beat out of him. York and Matthews, of course, end up winning this one with the problem solver. I'm a big C.W. Anderson fan. I really think he could have done something more. Maybe that's just me overestimating his abilities, but he has an absolutely beautiful spine buster, and he can work a promo when he needs to. And after this match, Elax pays the penalty for costing CW his match, as CW will tell him, and gets a beatdown. And that's pretty much all she wrote there. Then we get to move on to ROH's big project, Xavier, who cuts a promo telling us that Scoot Andrews broke his leg, so he won't be here. I don't think we see Scoot Andrews. We might see him one or two more times, but it won't be much more after this. But tonight he'll be facing the Sicilian Shooter, James Maritato, Little Guido in ECW, Nunzio in WWE, who is also on his way to getting signed with them. And Maritato gets a little bit of a promo to rebuttal and talk about himself and his history. Of course, he was trained in Japan to shoot fight, and that's sort of what he's going for here, obviously, with a name like the Sicilian Shooter. Xavier's promo is very rough, and I still continue to wonder what Ring of Honor saw in this guy other than a look, but maybe that's all they saw. That being said, he does go out here and have a pretty decent match with James Maritato. Nothing overly surprising, nothing terrible, just solid, and sometimes that's really all you can ask for. Commentary really puts over the win huge, though. Xavier sort of catches him with a surprise pin out of nowhere, and you're already starting to see that they have big plans for Xavier, and we're only 2 shows in. So there's that. We get some spanky fun in a segment here where he sort of mocks these old dudes from the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission, talking about how they shouldn't bleed and curse on this show. We're going to break both of those very, very blatantly, although the bleeding one is accidental, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Natural Born Sinners get a promo. They're going to kill the Boogie Nights. It's pretty easy to believe them. And then they go out there and do so in about 2.5 minutes, maybe 3. These guys just get beat. Tobin takes a powerbomb on the Homicide's knee, which is brutal. Homicide hits a double stomp that is a little too stiff for my comfort level. And then they end up taking him out with this lariat half and half suplex combo. And needless to say, them boys is dead. Low-Key runs out next. He gets promo backstage, He's talking about Christopher Daniels' claims that he's the best athlete in Ring of Honor when Low-Key knows that it is him, and tonight he's going to finish the business that he has with Christopher Daniels, and that by the end of the night, Daniels will respect Low-Key. Very solid promo, lots of energy, lots of great stuff that you would expect from Low-Key here in his prime. And him and Daniels go out there and have a doozy of a match. Lots of holds, of course. Low-Key, traditional strikes. Low-Key sort of does the kneeling kick combo. Daniels decides to flip him the bird, and Low-Key shows him how large of a mistake that was. And of course, being that this is a hybrid podcast article, I do have a wonderful GIF of that, so definitely go check out the article, because it's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty. Loki ends up winning this one with I believe the Dragon Sleeper. Yeah, Dragon Sleeper. And the thing to note here is that the moves, and the strikes are sort of secondary to the grounded submission work, which is something I think Ring of Honor wanted to put over pretty big here. And both matches have ended by submission. And of course, Daniels has one win out of the two matches, and Loki now has one, looking to go 2-0 later on when he faces off against Bryan Danielson. Christopher Daniels is not done, though. He grabs the microphone after he loses and says that he made Daniels tap out earlier, and he made him shake his hand. He just tapped to Loki, but it proves nothing because he already wrestled once and he was tired, and Loki is pretty much lucky that he didn't have to face him first. Gets a lot of heat. Daniels is so good, guys. I cannot oversell. I can't oversell how great he was. And Daniels then goes on to say he's going to refuse to wrestle for Ring of Honor again until they create a championship, which they'll do very soon. He runs into Xavier as the cameras follow into the backstage area, who seems to sort of nod and pat him on the back in congratulations for what he just said. Daniels then runs into the Hit Squad, who are all pissed about him not following the Code of Honor. He bails, and of course the camera runs into Spanky, who has on a Walkman. We're dating ourselves here, but he has on a Walkman and headphones, and he decides to sing karaoke into the camera. It's pretty funny. I love Spanky, guys. He's so fun. We move on from there. The Spanish announce team, Amazing Red and Quiet Storm, are playing some basketball against each other. It's done very poorly, by the way. These guys can't play basketball to save their souls. Red finally scores on the set. They get all pissy, and Red gloats about how great he is. Hard to argue when you get to watch him work in the ring. But before we get to see that big match that they set up on the last show, we get to see another Texas Wrestling Academy showcase as Paul London takes on Chris Marvel. This is a very unfortunate match because Marvel, they go maybe 2 minutes. Marvel gets sent to the outside after a couple of drop salts, those moonsault kicks that London would make very famous in the WWE in a couple of years. And he goes to hit an Asai moonsault on Marvel, but when he catches him, Marvel catches London. Marvel's leg snaps right out from under him. It's absolutely disgusting. Carino, being the sensitive soul that he is, starts making jokes, and I even go so far as to make one in the written article too. But it's always unfortunate to see somebody get seriously injured, and we won't see Chris Marvel again. Let's just say that. And of course, everybody's heard of Paul London, so we'll talk more about what he does in this year because it's pretty great. Next up is Jay Briscoe taking on Spanky. Briscoe gets a promo to talk about how he's actually facing Spanky tonight, how he's looking forward to the match. Mark says it doesn't really matter. He just wants to know if Jay will win because so far, we're only one show in, but it's time to mock your brother for losing, of course. And Jay gets all pissed and shoves him away and walks away from the camera. Fortunately, Ring of Honor doesn't like to bring this up very much, but these two are obviously on a collision course in a feud, even though they're supposed to be a tag team and brothers and bada bada bada, right? Anyways, Jay Briscoe versus Spanky. Spanky does win here with sliced bread number 2. This is pretty good. Briscoe is still learning his way around. Spanky is obviously a little young here too. It's rough in the opening minutes. You can see some blown spots, some miscommunications here or there, and they finally get over that though. And the last 5-6 minutes are pretty great. Spanky gets a little over enthusiastic about jumping, doing a splash into the corner, and his head bounces off the open connecting area from the actual buckle to the post, and he gets a pretty nasty gush on his head. It's bleeding and everything, and Mark has a couple cuts on him, and an inadvertent bloodbath, to say the least. But like I said, Spanky does win the sliced bread number 2. Undefeated for him in Ring of Honor so far, while Jay has yet to win. And Mark lets him know about it after the match and yells at him, and they sort of get into another little shoving match and walk it off because they're brothers. We cut backstage then. After that, Bryan Danielson wins a fan vote for being the best trainee out of the Wrestling Academy by a landslide. I think he got like 64% of the vote or something like that. And surprisingly, that will play into something later on. So keep your eyes open for that, right? Divine Storm, Chris Divine, Quiet Storm take on Sat and Amazing Red and Bryan XL in a essentially a Lucha Rules, triangle tag team match. This was set up last month whenever they all during that big scramble, which was so much better than this. This is excuse me for 1 second. You get so many blown spots in this match. It's ridiculous. That's not to say there's not some cool stuff in here. Divine Storm are first eliminated by assisted shooting star press from Amazing Red. And then the Sat end up winning via distraction roll-up on Red and Bryan XL after they get into an argument. Like I said, not as fun as the first one. There's so many more blown spots. It's really rough. And this is how a lot of these matches are going to be, because Ring of Honor will go back to this well very often. And some are better than others by country miles. So if you're looking to keep an eye on these guys, then yeah, it's going to be rough. Low-key then gets a promo to talk about how he made Christopher Daniels respect him earlier by making him tap out. Now he's going to do the same thing to the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and prove that he is the best in Ring of Honor. Not the size of the fight in the dog, bada bada bada, you know the rest. And then we get to this incredible main event, which really deserves a lot of talking. Bryan Danielson does defeat Loki in this match via cat mutilation. So all the matches in the round robin challenge, everybody won one. Everybody won by submission. So really nothing gets proved. Ken Shamrock comes out and makes both guys shake hands and offers to guest referee the match. The referee hands him the shirt, so clearly that happens. These guys have a very, very old school strong style match. Almost to the point of it being a shoot fight, right? So these guys, they spend the opening 10, 12, 15 minutes, however long they went, just trading holds. That is not for everybody. I don't expect it to be everybody's cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. I love drawing you in and sort of making you feel like they're going for something big in the early going. And they certainly do that. It goes on for way too long. 10, 12 minutes is a little long for my taste when you're going to do this. That might be more modern sensibilities at play here. Obviously, we've gotten used to styles like the Young Bucks or any other cruiserweight guy. Lio Rush is another great example from Ring of Honor nowadays, who get to the point very quickly after maybe 2-3 minutes of groundwork. These guys go much longer. That's not to say that they don't take breaks in between, because they do. You get a lot of kicks, and you get some breaks as they roll to the outside to try to take breathers here and there. So obviously where they're going here is a very realistic feel. And this is something that hasn't really been done a whole lot, if ever, here in the States up to this point. And certainly not on this big a stage where Ring of Honor has already started cultivating a reputation and has started selling DVDs very well. So getting this onto the show and everything is a very big step towards cultivating this modern United States independent style, where you start taking pages from Lucha Libre, and you start taking pages from Strong Style, and you start taking pages from all sorts of different styles all over the world and meshing it into this sort of hodgepodge of styles that is completely different from what they're doing in the WWE at this point in time, right? We're still coming off the Attitude Era, we're getting into Ruthless Aggression, so you're getting some of that with your Benoits and your other top guys that are sort of more wrestling based, right? For Ring of Honor, that is what they want to bring to you every time. Eddie Guerrero, another name I'm obviously forgetting. And this is sort of the beginning of that. And it's a very, very big deal. And obviously, even today, as far reaching as where we are in the present day in 2017, this matters a lot. Because obviously, you look at New Japan now and how their style has sort of found a niche. Even before this, right? Like strong Japanese wrestling in the States has been around for a while, cultivated through various relationships with World Championship Wrestling, WWE at certain points, ECW, the list goes on and on. Probably farther back, NWA, whatever. it obviously Japanese wrestling has never been as popular as where we are today in 2017, but we're starting to see that ramp up, right? We're starting to see it ramp up very much more than what we've seen before. And I think this match is a very, very large reason why, because they're sort of in the right place, right? Philadelphia has this obviously big name for wrestling. They're in front of crowds looking for something different, and we're getting close to the Reign of Terror from Triple H. People are starting to get fed up with sports entertainment and looking for something like this, something more pure, something more violent for sure. And these guys bring it to you. Low Key and Danielson, especially in the closing stretch, just start throwing bombs on each other, right? Key crushers, cattle mutilations, phoenix splashes, diving headbutts, super key crusher from Low Key at one point. And Danielson wins after he catches Low Key from the tidal wave, kills him in this devastating back suplex, and then throws him into cattle mutilation to make him tap. And I don't think I can stress to you how important this match is, how good this match is, even by modern day standards. Certainly go out there and track this down. I'm sure there's a way for you to find it. Equally as good as the main event from the first show. I gave it 4.5 stars. Maybe worth a little bit more than that, simply looking at it from, I think, a historical perspective from now. How much this match really affects things moving forward, not only for Ring of Honor, right, but for just typical independent wrestling in general. And maybe even far-reaching is to say why, this you could trace back to this as to the reason why Strong Style starting to find more fans here in the States. And probably all over the world, right? Because Ring of Honor is this far-reaching thing, farther than we realize, I think, at times. A very, very popular independent, and sort of sets a model and footprint for what independents go for these days as far as a global look. You look at West Side Extreme Wrestling in Germany, or you look at a promotion that that the Ring of Honor will pair up with to create a world title, which is it's not Frontier. It's IPW UK over in the state and in the United Kingdom, where you have these promotions looking for these big tournaments that reach far across, or just for more exposure across the world. And I think Ring of Honor certainly set the model for that, and you see it nowadays. Progress, another example from today that really cultivated a international audience. I don't think that really existed on this level, in an independent level, until Ring of Honor came across. You had people looking to isolate territories or states or multiple states. In the case of like IWA Mid-South, for example, really targets a lot of the Midwest and Arkansas area, stuff like that. Or you look at PWG, which would open the same year, 2002. And really look to sort of take over California, and has cultivated now an international audience with stuff like the Battle of Los Angeles, with the DDT tournament, tag team tournament that they do every year. So I think this match and this promotion is what makes this so interesting to talk about first, and how it really creates a modern day independent that is not only focused on bringing something different to the table, but is focused on bringing an international audience together and trying to reach farther than really an independent could go. And obviously you couldn't do this before the internet. And that's another thing that I talked about before. It's something that will remain vitally important. For example, Ring of Honor sends news updates through the Newswire. You have stuff happen on there at times, which I might have to try to track down. But yes, very, very big deal in this match. Can't recommend it enough. Let's move on before I make myself sound sillier. We get a video package for the show for next month, which is a night appreciation for Eddie Guerrero. I was mistaken. I think in my first podcast I said we only see him the one time. We do get to see him once more, and this is his last appearance before he goes back to the WWE. Backstage, you have all of Mikey Ripwreck's boys that were in the Lucha Triangle tag match earlier, arguing with each other. He tosses Bryan XL out and says he'll find Amazing Red a new partner, seeing as he can't get along with anybody, and he's going to make another match for the next month. So that's something to look forward to if you are into that. Spanky congratulates Danielson on his win. in the match and winning the poll, and says that, Danielson, you stuffed the ballot box. Danielson, however, says, look, man, I'm clearly better than you are. And Paul London retorts that, hey, man, I wasn't even on the ballot, or I would have won. Rudy Boy jumps in, says he's going to make them in a match next month to prove who is actually better. This is kind of a big deal. Spanky and Danielson were the big feud coming out of the TWA, sort of looking for the next Heartbreak Kid. We'll see this sort of expand outward too, especially with Paul London and Michael Shane, who will really take that idea at least to heart and sort of move forward, and have one of the most phenomenal matches in early Ring of Honor history for me. And then we get the big recap techno video to close it all out. So we usually rate shows on Wrestling with the Max. I do it in the article as well. I can't remember if I did it on my first episode or not, but I'm going to do it here anyways because I don't feel like I've talked enough to really warrant 30 minutes. I gave this show 6.5 out of 10. When you look at the rest of the undercard outside of the Round Robin Challenge stuff, it's not great. It's very average to good. And what you should really take away from this is that they have found the right guys at the top of the card. American Dragon, Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, Loki. Those are the guys who are bringing people to the table. You'll have guests like Eddie Guerrero and others sort of step in here and there. For example, in this first year, we also, I believe we have a Weekend of Thunder where they bring in Liger, Jushin Thunder Liger, which was a big deal. They also have, the Butcher. I'm blanking on his name. I'm sure people listening are probably telling me the name right now, like, you're dumb, you're so dumb. Oh, Paul, forgive me. I've been doing a lot today. They'll bring him in as well, to work with the Natural Born Sinners and stuff like that. So you're going to see guests and stuff like that. But really what we're looking for is guys in the undercard to sort of step up and show you that they're going to make your time worth it to check out more Ring of Honor other than just these guys. And we'll get there, of course. And especially this next show, we get AJ Styles, too, which is going to be... AJ's run in Ring of Honor is incredible. But that 6.5 out of 10 for this show. Do remember this is a part podcast, part article. There are more stats to be had on the article as well as more thoughts. Maybe if you prefer written format to talking format and very much me stream of thought doing this, that is there for you as well as all the stats. Example, top 10 best matches of the year, and I'll be ranking the top 5 shows. And then, of course, the gimmick here is when we run out of shows, we'll either vote to keep on moving on through 2000 into 2003 with Ring of Honor, or jump to something else that I have full years of, which turns out to be quite a lot of stuff. That'll do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I feel like I didn't talk enough, but maybe I did. I don't know. I also can't guarantee how regular this will be. Like I said, I watch a ton of wrestling every week, especially for the main W2M shows. So squeezing this in can sometimes be very difficult. Hopefully it won't be another 3-4 months gap, but I don't want to commit to a time frame. So this will be sort of as I have time and as you get it and all that good stuff. But as I said, my name is Paul Leeser. This is the Wrestling Time Machine. Please stick with me, guys. We're in for incredible adventure. It's just going to take maybe as much time as it took to get through an actual calendar year. So once again, you guys, thanks for joining me. W2Mnet.com. Totally a website that we do. That's what this podcast is on. That's what Wrestling to the Max is on. That's what Foxy and Squid is on. That's what Video Games to the Max is on. That's what Football to the Max is on. That's what Soccer to the Max is on. We have a whole network of shows is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not just me. It's a whole bunch of other guys, Wrestling Unwrapped, who totally stole my gimmick, by the way, guys. You stole it. It's whatever, though. They're great. We have articles. We have written reviews. We do all sorts of stuff. It's really worth your time to check out. Bunch of great people over there doing great work. Of course, W2M Network is what this podcast is on. It's what all the podcasts are on. You can subscribe to that. If you want all of them, you can subscribe individually to shows like this one, The Wrestling Time Machine, Wrestling Unwrapped. The list goes on and on. Jobber's Court, another great show, who do a lot of interviews with actual wrestlers if you're into that sort of thing. So a lot of great content out there for you to check out. lots of written reviews to check out. Lots of great stuff. Once again, Paul Leeser, Wrestling Time Machine Podcast. Catch you on the flip side, guys.